Hi, welcome to this preview of Burning Rome. Burning Rome is currently seeking funding, and this is a prototype that we're going to be seeing. And it's all about ancient battles in a very fast-paced, quick tactical game where you have pre-constructed decks and a ton of replayability. What you're going to do is you're going to put yourself in the armors of the greatest generals as they lead their armies to victory in some of the most ferocious battles in the ancient world that are going to be remembered for ages. The game is played by 2 or 4 players. It lasts about 15 to 30 minutes, so it's quite quick, and it can be played by players of 14 ages and up. So what's the purpose of the game? You're trying to accomplish a total win, and you're going to achieve this by either routing the enemy army to bring it beyond 0 for the command points. That's here on this scale. This is a command point. Or you can destroy the enemy army by reducing its army strength to 0, which is the higher score track, where you have the strength of the army. So if you get this to 0, then you win, the opponent wins. Or if you manage to get the command point below 0, then you also win. Again, please keep in mind that what you see in front of you is a preview. This is a prototype. So even though the art is quite fascinating and it's very nice, as you can see, it has a lot of nice illustrations, all the quality and all the materials that are used, the prototype materials, so all these are changed to upgrades that are going to happen via the Kickstarter campaign that's running now. You can find many components inside this small box. For such a small box, it carries a lot of weight and a lot of stuff, and even more may be added due to the campaigns and the additional campaigns that are going to follow. So what you see in front of you, first of all, is you see 4 decks of cards. They're quite big decks with a lot of cards, and these represent the 4 factions. You have 54 cards for each faction, and the 4 factions are Rome, Carthage, Celtiberia, and Gaetuli. These are the 4 factions. So let's quickly go through the components so that we can familiarize ourselves with what's coming inside the game. We have 10 tokens, besides the ones that are blue here, and you have 5 more, so it's 10 in total. And this may change again due to the campaign. These are used in order to represent the amounts on the respective tables. So you have the score tracks, the command track and the army track for each side, and also the turn order. And we have 5 more because the game comes not with 2 army seats that you can see here, but also 2 additional, because you can have epic battles and have also 4 people playing the game. So you set it up side by side and you have 2 battles. You're going to see a little bit further down the video how this happens. You also get 2 battlefields. This is a battlefield. You get 1 more again for the bigger epic battles that you're going to follow. Here we're describing a quick battle. You get markers, so you can indicate which cards you have used for this turn. So you will place the marker on the card, and then at the next turn you just remove it for one-time abilities. Also, you get the rulebook with all the instructions, and just to mention that the cards are quite a lot. You don't use all of the deck for each of the battle. You can pre-construct your deck. You have some predetermined recommendations that you can use for quick, easy battles. Also, you get the ancient battles, which is a completely the rulebook is online, and you can find more information, where you can set up specific armies and specific units within the army. But we're not going to go into detail into this for the moment. And just keep in mind that from all this bigger pile of cards for each faction, you only use a few, so you can set up your quick battle and start fighting each other right away. So in order to demonstrate a quick battle, we're going to have simulate a battle between Rome and Carthage for those 2 factions, the notorious enemies, through the history, and we're going to show how you set up the game and how you start playing. As we mentioned earlier, each faction has a total of 54 cards, out of which it has 7 generals, 13 units, 10 tactics, and 6 auxiliaries. They're all depicted here in the rulebook. So what we have for this first setup on this quick battle that we use in the rulebook in order to familiarize ourselves with how to play Burning Rome, the game recommends that we start with Rome and Carthage, because each faction plays completely different, and this is the beauty of this small clever game. And these are the predetermined cards that the game asks us to find, locate, and include in our deck. So we pre-construct the Rome deck with those cards and the Carthage deck with those, and then each player is ready to start with their own deck. Just a quick glance at the deck of the Romans. This is Rome, and it has several military units, as you can see. We have 2 copies of each card. It should be 13 overall. And we have the medium melee infantry, medium melee cavalry, light missile infantry, heavy melee infantry, heavy spear infantry, 1 offensive tactics and 1 defensive tactics, and the general. On the other side of the battlefield we have Carthage, and we have the respective military units of Carthage. This is light missile infantry again. These are slingers and these are javelin men. Medium melee infantry, heavy spear infantry again. These are the Carthaginian, the general, an offensive tactic card, a defensive tactic card, war elephants, African war elephants. Of course we would have elephants with this faction, and light spear infantry. This again should be 13. As we mentioned earlier, Burning Rome is a very easy to grasp game. What you need to do is you need to pay just a quick overview on what the cards do, and you familiarize yourself with what you see on each card, and then make the best out of the cards you have and use tactics to achieve victory. So let's see how a card looks like and what we see on the cards. What we see is first of all the unit type, which is depicted on the top here. This is a medium melee infantry, and this is important because it can be affected by different cards. We have the attack value on the left, which is 2, and the defense value on the right, which is 1. These are the top numbers. Then beneath each of those we have respectively the skirmish value, which is 1 for this card, and the siege value, which is again 1 for this card. We're going to go into details how to play and how to use them during the battle. Then you see a very nice illustration and graphics of this type of unit, which is also historic in my opinion and very thematic looking. And you see a quick icon for the faction. In the middle we'll see the unit name, specific unit name. What we get here is the command point cost, which is how many command points we need to spend from our chart in order to play this card in the battlefield. And then we get the period, which is not important for this game. It's also important maybe for expansions. We don't care about it now. And then we have the ability. The abilities have different iconographies based on what type of ability you have, and we're going to go into detail. But overall it's very simple, just a couple of numbers, an ability, and then you're ready to use the card. Speaking for abilities, remember we showed the card and we indicated that there is an ability at the bottom of the card, and there is an icon on the left of the text of the ability which indicates the type of ability. So we can summarize the abilities in those 4 or 5 categories, which are ongoing, the one with the sun timer. The ongoing, this ability is ongoing, and as long as the unit is on the battlefield it's always valid, and if the text is visible that means that it's valid and you can apply it. It's an ongoing ability. Then we have the icon with the special ability that is when played it has an arrow pointing towards the bottom right corner, and this means that the ability is executed once and only once when the card is played in the battlefield. Then it doesn't affect anymore, it's only one-time thing. We have the lightning bolt, which is activate. This ability can be activated once per turn if the unit is on the battlefield and the ability is visible. We speak about visibility because during the game you're going to see that there would be cases that you overlap. We're going to explain this later. You would overlap the card text, so it will be like that, sorry, and then you can hide the ability of the bottom card. In this case only that ability would count, and this would be an ongoing ability that would be valid. So going back to the lightning bolt, this is an activate ability, since when it will be visible the players would going to exhaust to play a marker to show that they use this ability for this round, and then going to remove it for the next round so they can use it on the next round. You need to activate it in order to use it. Then we have the retreat with a flag. The ability is executed when a unit leaves the battlefield. It may be returned to the player's hand or discarded to the bottom of the enemy deck, of the army deck, sorry. But in both cases we have a retreat, and this is indicated by the flag. We've seen earlier that besides the army unit we also have tactic cards. Tactics doesn't have attack or defense like the other cards. It doesn't have numbers, as you can see in front of you. So they are never put on the battlefield, but they're played next to it. They're discarded back to the bottom of the army deck once the ability has been executed. So it is a special card that applies specific tactics to the battlefield, benefiting obviously the side that plays this offensive or defensive or reinforcement tactics, and then you just apply what is written on the text on the card, and then you have this tactic applied to your battlefield in order to achieve victory. So once both players have assembled their predefined army deck, as we've seen before, it's time to decide who's going to start playing, who's going to be the attacker for the first round, and then who's going to be the defender respectively. What we do is we get our respective decks, and each player will going to reveal the first card from their deck. Obviously they have shuffled their deck in advance, and what's going to happen is the player with the highest attack decides who will go first. In the case of the tie, we keep drawing till we get the different number. Here we have 1 for this side and 2 for that side. So the player on the left with Rome is going to start, he's going to decide who's going to start playing with the first attack. So let's say here that Rome decides that they're going to start playing, so they're going to initiate with the first attack. They reshuffle the deck and they're ready to go. So after both players have reshuffled their army deck, they place it next to their starting side, and the attacker removes 1 command point. We've seen that Rome decided to start by attacking, so from 9 we go to 8, and the attacker draws 4 cards. Respectively, the defender will draw 5 cards. Both the attacker and the defender may choose to discard one of their cards to the bottom of their respective army decks and then draw a new one if they're not pleased with their initial hand. So, at the start of your turn, what you do is you remove any markers from exhausted units. Remember the grey poker chips that we've seen before. And then you execute any ability that says at the start of your turn. Taking out, for example, this illustration from the rulebook that shows that at this played card shows that at the start of your turn, if you have more units in play than your enemy, you gain 1 command point. You can see this because it's indicated on the card, and the ability is active. Also, it is ongoing. That means that it will happen every turn at the start of your turn if this ability is not covered by another card. Then you choose between one of the following. You either draw 1 card from your army deck, or you gain 2 command points. You can only do one of the two. Now the good portion of the game comes where you play cards. You may play as many cards or as few cards as you wish, as long as you have command points to spend for the cost that they need. You can't pay a card if the cost brings the command point count below 0, as you would expect. So once you have completed all the initial actions, you start playing cards, following the same steps each time you want to play a card. You pay the command point cost on the card. Remember, this is the one on the bottom left of the card, like shown here. By moving down the token on the command point track, then you place the card in any of the columns, flank or center, so you can put it on the left, at the center, or at the right flank. So you select which side you want to place your card, you place it there, and tactics are placed, as we've seen before, next to the battlefield. They don't get into the battlefield, they just you apply the effect that they describe with the text. If the card has an ability that shows the arrow pointing towards the bottom right, then you must execute the action according to the text unless you can't. For example, you don't have enough cards. And then you can keep following this setup and this way of playing cards as long as you can pay for them, playing cards and making your battlefield and your side of the army stronger on the left, the center, or on the right. And then you can select where to place your units and prepare for the attack that follows. So going back to our example, for example, Rome was attacking, so this is the hand they have. They decide to play this heavy melee infantry. They have to pay 2 command points, so they bring the command points from 8 to 6. They choose the card and they can place it in either left, center, or right. So they decide to put it, say, in the center, and then they can apply the effect. This card, as you can see, let me show you a bit closer. It has an ongoing ability. It has +1 attack and defense versus medium. That means that when you get in this column, as we're going to see the battle in the center column, any medium unit, it's going to get +1 defense or +1 attack, and this is an ongoing ability as long as the card is not covered. What we mean by covered is that, let's say we continue playing cards and we want to play also this medium melee infantry. Again, we're going to pay another 2, bringing this down. and we're going to position it. It says it has an one-time effect that you may play one medium unit for free. So this can go either here, here or here, and if it goes in the center, what is going to happen is we're going to overlay them so that we can only see not all the two rows of the previous card, just the first row. So you only leave the attack and then defense from the previous card, and then you overlay it with this card, and then all the numbers are shown like 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. Careful, you don't put it like that, because the siege needs to be hidden. In addition, the previous ability that was ongoing is not going to be valid anymore. Therefore, just for this turn, I'm not going to obviously make this ability useless. We're going to place this on the left. Remember, this card had an ability when we played it. At that point, we may play one medium unit for free. Let's check our hand and see if we have any medium units. And indeed, we have medium melee cavalry. Therefore, this is going to play it out of our hand without paying the 2 command points due to the ability of the previous card. And this can go to the battlefield, and it's going to go, say, on this side here. So we have one unit on each side. This was played for free due to the ability of that card. Okay, so units can also be played on top of each other in order to support the column by increasing attack and or defense respectively at the same time. So you can play a maximum of 3 card units on top of each other in each column, and the general is the only unit that can be played as a 4th in a column. So for example, if I had more cards and I wanted to spend more command points to play them, I could, for example, play this card here. This would be the second, and this card here, that would be the third. Obviously applying the effect of the card if it's a one-time thing once it enters the battlefield. For example, this one, if you have more than 2 units in play, gain 1 command point, which is the case. So I have more units, and then I gain 1 additional command point from the ability of the card. This was one-time thing. I need to be very careful because the cost of playing the third card in this column is that besides the command points that I would have to spend, etc., in order to play it, I cover the previous ongoing ability, which was something that the previous unit would offer at the battlefield, and now it's no longer valid because only this ability would be in place. Just to show you how the general, which is the exception for the column placing, is played, this is the only card that can go 4th, like that. You can go with a typical unit as a 4th card in a column, but also it's the only card that it is floating, meaning that if you had previously played the general here and then you wanted to play another card in its position, this card would go take the previous place of the general, and then the general would float further down in the column so that it will be always visible for the next session. So what happens next? At the end of your turn, once you have decided that you played all the cards you wanted and you have chosen to do so, then you proceed with the following steps. You execute the ability of any card that says at the end of your turn, before attack, if any obviously. Then you resolve the attack, which is the majority, the major portion of what we're going to show here is the juice of the game. We're going to come back to it in a bit. And then after that you execute any ability that says at the end of your turn, after attack. So when you resolve your attack, all units now attack the opponent army, column versus column. This is one of the fascinating things from the game. It plays really well, and you need to carefully think where you put your troops, how you strengthen left, center or right, and what you're going to find across the battlefield from the opponent. So all units attack the opponent army, with the exception of columns that were formed this turn. That means, for our example, all 3 columns were established this turn, for example. So the opponent has nothing. All 3 columns renew. So none of those would attack for this turn only, because they were really established at this turn. For the next turn, when this player plays their respective cards for their flank, center or whatever he chooses to, then the next turn they're going to attack, even if they have cards added to, because the column wasn't established here. So the only reason for this is that the game is balanced. Obviously you don't just start with the first player putting armies and then attacking nothing from the other side. We need to prepare for the battle. So if you establish this column for the first turn, it will not attack. The same will happen with this player for the first turn. If they establish a column for the first turn, then they're not going to attack. A column freshly established is not attacking. So going back to the resolution of the attack, what happens is, first you attack, you take the attack value of all front and middle units and add the skirmish value of only the rear unit, meaning you take the first row from the numbers from all stacked cards and then the bottom second row from the last card in a column. Let's show this in the example so it's clarified, because it's very easy to grasp once shown. So for the center column, what we're going to add for the attack is 2 from the first card, 1 from the second card, and 1 from the rear card, not 2. 2, 1 from the second card, and 1 from the last card. And then the defense respectively would be 1, 0, and 2. So you don't count the top row for the rear unit because they act as the rear unit obviously, so they have the back of the column. So for example, the opponent would defend with 1 and 1 from this. So 1 plus 1. And I remind, the attack would be 2, 3, 4 minus 2. That would give us 2 points of damage. So we've seen this for the middle column. You would do the same for the left and the right at the top. We're just showing it from the sideways. So you're going to add all the damage that the player is going to inflict to the opponent side, and the total number for each of the columns is going to be reduced from the opponent. The total number obviously is going to be reduced from the army strength, which is the top chart. The bottom is the command point chart. So let's see this example. Let's say that this was not the first turn that the columns were established for the sake of this video and explanation, and I'm going to show the total attack value against the opponent on the right. So Rome attacks with 2 for this card, and then the opponent defends with 0. So 2 minus 0, that would be for this column 2 points of army strength reduced from 13, 12, 11. Then let's go for the center. As we calculated before, this is 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, 4 minus 1, 3 minus another 1, 2. A total of 2 for the middle column, so we're going to go 10, 9, and then for this one we have 2, only the top number, minus the top number, which is 0, another 2. So this was a devastating attack for this side. This would conclude after the attack, the Rome's player turn, and then we'll move the tracker down, and then the Carthage would going to take a respective turn, preparing with the cards, playing cards, and then attacking towards Rome. Now, beside the numerical attack and defense from this tactical positioning of armies, and outsmarting your opponent and towards what he's doing and where he's placing cards, what is the most important thing is the abilities, obviously. And specific units are really good towards a specific different type of unit, for example, and this is also historical. The designer has done a tremendous job in really making it very thematic how this works in real. It would have worked in real ancient battle, and obviously the way that Rome plays is completely different. The deck feels completely different from Carthage. The same goes for the other two factions. So what's just to keep in mind is that there are various bonuses and penalties. So units may have small bonuses or penalties when fighting specific other units. You have to look for the opponent unit types and calculate the total attack and defense values. This is a very fast game. Don't worry about the text, which is positioned across the table from you, because you don't care about it. You care about only one card. There will be only one text box available. So you just need maybe to ask your opponent to read you quickly the 3 cards that you can see, the 3 texts here, but the rest is just the numbers that you can read, and you can also sum for yourself and be prepared for what's coming towards the next battle. Just another quick illustration from the rulebook. You can see that the game comes with a lot of additional quick battle setup. You have different pre-constructed decks to give you different reliability. Also, you get the rules for building your own army. You have 45 points, and you can spend it as you wish on the strength, the military strength, the army strength, the command point, and the total cost of your cards. You must include obviously one general, not more. You have to include at least one regular faction unit. We can see from the index what is referred to as a regular. And then your army deck must consist of at least 8 cards. There's no upper limit except for the points, and then you must spend all of the 45 points so that the final deck will be balanced towards the opponent. Also, the game comes with quite a lot of quick battle variants. You have at least 3 here. Also, you're free to think of your own. It has a lot of replayability, so you can play as a quick battle, as you've seen. You can use the variants for different feel, and also we can go to the ancient battles, which is a totally new chapter, more epic for this concept of the game actually. And at this section you have various battles, historic battles, like the Battle of the Lake Trasimene, and various other ones that really happen. You get the flavor, you get the history, you get the different standing, who had the advantage, who had the disadvantage. Remember, the factions play very differently, so you get a bit of setup for this specific type of battle, so you're ready to start and get into the historical battle and play and get the feel out of this historical battle yourself. Just to show you here the use of the 2 battlefields. For example, this Battle of Zama, it utilizes both of the battlefields, so you get all 6 sections, but they count as one left, one center and one right, and there are different rules that you can read on the specific leaflet for this battle that you can apply and then enjoy one historical battle with your friends. So, when I was reading the rules for the first time, I thought to myself, this is a very simple game, very nicely done, the numbers and the strengths, and very careful and thoughtful planning of what you put, what unit you include for each column. It plays very, very fast. I really wanted to play more when I finished, so I just started another battle right away with my friend. But what is most important for someone seeing this video to understand is that it's not only about numbers. What's really important is about tactics and outguessing your opponent. So it's not just putting a different pile of cards with different numbers in one column, so you have more numbers to the left from the right. It's not like that at all. You need to carefully think, depending on the minute of the battle that you're looking, to evaluate it as a true general and really think you're going to put it on the left, on the right, or on the center, because this would affect totally the balance, and also the ability of the card that you're bringing on the battlefield is going to make everything or nothing towards your achieving the victory. So you need to be really careful, because the feel and the abilities are very, very different. This doesn't block the game. It's very fast paced. You just boom, 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 play each other one card or 2 cards usually per turn, because you need, the initial command points you have are spent quite fast, and then you can either draw a card or you can gain additional command points. But then you need to start after you set your initial troops and you start fighting each other, and some side is going to be losing, some side is going to be winning, making more damage to the opponent. Then you need to turn and look at this column that really is affecting you, or they're hitting you hard, and do what you can to turn the battle towards you. So I hope we've given you a really good insight on how the game plays and how it feels. It is a print to play at the moment, I believe, during the campaign, so feel free to give it a print and try it yourself, because it really pays off. It's very good illustration from the artwork. The illustrators have done a tremendous job, but also the design is very fast, very robust, quick paced, and you get in 15 or 20 minutes the feel of the condensed feeling of a really historical battle that happened, and you get to face your opponent and try to damage him left, center or right, and use your abilities and your special advantages to your benefit. So this was Burning Rome. Hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time,